start recording. So, my talk today is about Meteor. It'll be so. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a front-end developer, full stack developer, and I'm an aficionado, as none of you will be surprised, of JavaScript. So today I would like to actually do a tech talk. I've not done a pure tech talk for a while, and I want to talk about Meteor. I call it the opinionated all-in-one powerhouse. This is not an official tagline or anything. I'm not endorsing it in any way either. But it is what it is. So what is Meteor? It is a full-stack JavaScript platform for developing modern web and mobile applications. So far, so good. It's one of, I don't know, dozens, right? At least. It has a couple of very interesting characteristics. And since it came out several years ago now, it's been evolving in some very interesting ways. The very first thing, and this has been true since the start, is that it is completely isomorphic, which means that it is basically just one language from top to bottom, from front to back end, and it's all in JavaScript. So this also spills over not just on web applications, but also onto mobile devices as well. So it's JavaScript running on mobile, of course, through a bunch of interpreters at the end of the day. But basically, you can build native mobile apps using Meteor. So it's similar in a way also to things like Electron. Another big feature is data on the wire. So the data, as it's modified in the databases, is sent directly to the client. And it also sends data of how the UI changes that may or may not be influenced by data from the database, but not as HTML. It changes them. It sends them as changes in the DOM. So it uses React. It can use React, as we'll get to in a second. But the way that it kind of does this paradigm using WebSockets, by the way, I didn't put that here, but that's an important one. It's using just the WebSocket API, and it has this paradigm. It uses this ideal of everything's on the wire, so everything's also just live updated all the time. This goes beyond hot module rebuild and all of the other things that you might be used to from other frameworks. This is just like constantly open, and you can control obviously the access of this data on the client. But yeah, that's the idea here, and from that comes the ideal of reactivity. So reactivity means that basically the UI, so all clients always reflect the absolute true state of the server for everyone. There are no caching issues. There are no like, obviously you can control all of these things as well. You can control which client sees what and all that, but there's always only one central source of truth. And even if there are network issues perhaps and UIs can't get updated for some reason, then that's taken into account as well in clever ways. And sort of the overarching theme and idea of Meteor is that it is kind of horizontally integrated. So the idea is full stack, right? But what frameworks, libraries, plugins that you use within that stack is completely up to you. So you're looking at any kind of a front-end library, if you like React, if you like anything else. You're looking at any kind of styling library, Bootstrap, whatever it is. You're looking at any kind of database drivers. It comes with MongoDB, which is a Lucene-based database and NoSQL database, but you can kind of use a SQL database if you want to. The only thing it doesn't do is allow you to run like things like PHP or something. I mean, you can do that as well. You can run PHP modules, but they'll have to be they'll have to be kind of configured in a way and built into Python wrappers and stuff. Can you just excuse? I'm really sorry. Can you excuse me just for 10 seconds? I'll just need to very quickly check something. Okay, that's it. Yeah, right. So there's only one more thing that I want to talk about, the particularity of Meteor. And that is the two ways that it manages packages. We all know NPM, and so Meteor also has the option of using its own package management kind of tool, which is called Atmosphere. which we'll see in a little bit. Atmosphere, sorry, is actually just the name of the the equivalent of npm.org. So it's atmosphere.j js.org or .com, whatever. And it allows Meteor to manage packages without npm as well. And the difference is, so here are the differences for people who are used to npm. Atmosphere is interesting because so Meteor does a lot of things out of the box. It handles a lot of kind of auto magic kind of client server stuff for you without you having to do a lot of groundwork yourself. And one reason to use Atmosphere and not npm packages, so Atmosphere packages will sometimes have npm repackaged, without you having to do more configuration is kind of the idea here. But Meteor will use something called DDP, which is called the distributed data protocol. And the distributed data protocol is this like whole idea of being able to, well, it's basically underlies the reactivity, the data on the wire, data on the wire, being able to kind of query a database live from the client at all times, and being able to kind of manage this, push results from the, this entire WebSockets management architecture. And Blaze is simply the inbuilt Meteor templating language. It's equivalent to React, but it is works a bit differently, and the syntax is differently. So using a lot of the inbuilt stuff, it'll be easier if you were to use Atmosphere packages, for example. Also, if you have any normal node application with libraries you'll use, you know that handling non-JS files can be a pain because you need transpilers, you need, Webpack configurations to make them kind of, work, especially if you have non-standard, like, less or SAS style sheets. And the management of static assets. So all of that's handled for you, and Atmosphere packages don't interfere with that easy handling of those. There's automatic transpilation. So if you install an Atmosphere package that actually is written in CoffeeScript, you don't have to do anything. It's just taken care for you because of the build system itself. As we'll see in a sec, there's very strict and opinionated way of how client and server architecture is handled, and so these contexts allow you to kind of work without any further effort on your part. There is a very powerful inbuilt package namespacing, kind of a namespacing system, and so you can basically write whichever ECMAScript style that you want, preferably all consistent, obviously. But Meteor will handle any discrepancies for you, especially if you're using badly written packages through Atmosphere. But yeah, as I said, Meteor has all these things built in, but you can just use npm for everything, and like just basically build everything yourself, use all the packages that you want yourself. So without further ado, yeah, let's jump into actually what this looks like and what this means. So the first step, what you want to do is install it, and it's literally just one command if you're on a normal development machine. Yes, you can do it on Windows, and to be honest, the development experience on Windows is actually fine. You've got all of the Visual Studio comes with Windows. Obviously, you've got any normal editor like Sublime or Atom. They come with it and it works fine. So you can actually really easily, really comfortably develop on Windows. But yeah, so you install it with basically one command, and it does everything for you now. So, yeah, let's, so the command is Meteor. So once you've installed it, the command is Meteor. And what we want to do is create a new web app from scratch. There is a kind of basic template web app that comes with the Meteor create function. And we will do, so it's Meteor create, and then the whatever you want to call the app, and it'll create that folder where you are. So new app. And we want to add one thing. We want to add here a flag called React, because what that does is instead of using its inbuilt templating language Blaze, it in fact ships now with the as its templating language React. So that's pretty nice. It handles that for us. Press enter. It works. It does its little thing. Hopefully not too long. Can't remember if this takes a long time. And yeah, that's great. So here in new app town, we are there. Well, let's open it in our editor and actually see what's been created, what this is. This is what it's done. It's created its little kind of meta folder as you'd be used to with any other library. And it does, so the first thing that you'll notice is these folders. So the folders are client, imports, server, and test. And they're kind of self-explanatory, but it kind of gives you the idea of exactly how it expects you to handle stuff. You can change it, but this is kind of like, it's a sort of, it's probably a good way of doing it. As you might expect, everything in the client folder only ever runs and is only ever shown on the client. And everything on the server only ever runs on the server. And we'll get into all of these details here. And the interesting thing is the imports folder. The imports folder can kind of look however you want, but the idea of the imports folder is that you basically define all of your components into separate parts of your app, like for example UI. By the way, is this zoomed in enough? Can you guys see this, or is this like too small for the stream?
That's fine for me.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, so I mean, .jsx is a bit of a non-standard way of defining these React classes, but it does give you a little bit of an, like it's easier to see maybe in big apps. And yeah, no surprises here. So what we do is we define an app component. It says welcome to Meteor, hello. It has the hello component and the info component, which are just the neighbors here. And in the main HTML, we just set the what you'd expect here, the React target, and in the main Java JSX, what we have here is a special command using the Meteor package called Meteor Startup. And so this runs on the client.meteor startup, and all it does is do the React thing of rendering app and inserting it into React targets. So right now, what we do simply is type Meteor to launch the app. And now let's have a look. So it starts its own proxy. So this all comes with this full stack arrangement, right? You've got your own proxy, you've got your own database plugin. Once it decides to, this is a lot slower, I think, when I do this live, probably because of the video or something. Yeah, so it starts MongoDB as a database driver, and then it loads the front end. And so here, localhost.3000, here we are. This is the app. This is exactly as you would expect kind of vanilla HTML to be. And it has a couple of nice little things that we're going to get into to where it works. So if I click me, it counts it. This is some very straightforward stuff. Here in hello, we have a state called counter, and the counter simply is reflected in that piece of HTML. So there's no surprises here. This is all pretty straightforward. What's interesting, what I really want to talk about. Okay, so one, oh yeah, there's one more thing actually here. Here's all the HTML. If I change it to you've tickled the button, I save it, and then it just, as you might be used to any other kind of HMR framework, just reloads it, one to one. The interesting part is when we look at these links here. So where do these links come from? These links are in fact generated by the info component, and the info component does something here. This is the only unfamiliar part for those who don't know React. So what this is in the server part, this is stuff that the client, that the front end can never see, has its own little startup, which only runs on the server because that's strictly defined via the folder structure. And what we do here is so first of all, yeah, we import the links from this API. The links is simply defining a Mongo collection called links. And this is all of the scaffolding, all of the startup and teardown is handled by the Meteor's Mongo driver. So anyone familiar with any Lucene-based database stuff is you know, it's basically that. It's like the kind of yeah, it, it just allows you to be able to kind of insert and retrieve data from this collection. And all we do here, what we want to do from this links is, because it's a Meteor collection, it allows us to insert, and we insert an object with title, with URL, and a created at. And this function is obviously replicated on startup 1, 2, 3, 4 times if there's nothing in the database itself. One thing that's very interesting about this, this goes slightly beyond HMR, is if we want to, for example, insert a new link, we can do this. We can do this very easily, as you'd expect here. Just put a little test, whatever. Yeah, we can keep the link, whatever. So this now, so actually this count is now going to be full because we've added these 4. So if I put it into here, it won't add it. But if I save this now, the Meteor server will be restarted and things will be rebuilt because it knows it has to, you know, things have changed. And so it'll insert this link without me ever refreshing the page. So it's actually got done a database read pretty much and displayed it to the client without the user needing to do anything on the page itself. It'll just appear. So this is kind of what the interesting thing about, you know, using this frameworks like this, where basically, especially if you have a kind of data critical or time sensitive function in a UI, that it's paramount that it's, you know, up to date for everyone at all times. So yeah, that's the first interesting thing. Oh yeah, and so how does this actually work, right? So right now we don't really see any kind of hooks or any kind of function other than here saying, oh yeah, we import the links and we find them and fetch them all, and we render them in a list. So yeah, we make the link with some HTML with the data that we get from this collection. But yeah, it's so what we can do is in the browser itself, we've got access to links to the collection. And you're saying, hold on, this is a bit crazy. So I can do links find, you know, and get the cursor to the entire collection. What I can also do is links.inserts, very much the way that we do it on the server. And I can say my title, blah, my URL, whatever, and is it, sorry, what's the key? Is it created at? Yeah, and then we'll just copy this actually. Okay, and here's a fun quiz question. What will happen when I press enter now? What are your expectations of what should happen or might happen?
Your server will be rebuilt and you will see new link, probably.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's a good guess, and that's exactly what happens. In fact, yeah, there it is, blah. It's done exactly that. I know Ev is probably writhing in his seat and says, my God, this is ridiculous. So this means that any client can write to the database without any tests, checks and balances. And the answer is, yes, exactly, they can, but only because of this. And I'll show you. Meteor comes by default with a whole bunch of packages. And 2 of them say very big for prototyping only, and they are called auto-publish and insecure. Do you want something called insecure in your app? No. So this is the first thing that you would remove if you were to actually put this into production. And it says right here, allow all database rights from the client. And the other one is publish the entire database to all clients. So we don't really want to do that. So the first thing we want to do if you want to have a serious application is to remove them. So we just use the command to remove both these. So what's the first thing that will happen once I do this?
The server will reboot.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've actually no, because I closed the server to uninstall the packages. I could have done it at the same time, sorry. But yeah, if I run the server now again, then obviously yeah. obviously what will happen is that we no longer, I can actually, yeah, I can keep the server running in one tab and then just use another one to do the commands.
Is there a warning if you forget to remove these packages and use this in production?
Yeah, if you do Meteor build, which I'm not going to go into, but if you do Meteor build, it'll say warning, you still have the prototyping packages. Yeah, so now the server is reloaded and we can't see anything. Why can't we see anything? Well, let's have a look. Links, right? So our links is a collection. That's good to know. But like links find is an empty collection. It has a null. It has no fields. So basically, yeah. So we are no longer publishing the database to the client. So the way to actually do this properly is this other Meteor feature using publish and subscribe model. And the publish and subscribe model is quite interesting. I'm going to go here and do the little things I've prepared because it's easier. So there's one more command that we are interested in, and it's meteor.isServer and meteor.isClient. It's not a command, sorry, it's just a flag. Meteor knows where it is at all times. So this is the interesting thing about the imports folder. The imports folder runs both in the client and in the server, because obviously we are importing components and different parts of the app in different parts in different ends of the app. So if we put this here, what it does is, yeah, it creates a new collection links, but if it's the server, it publishes it. It makes sure that there's a collection called links that is available, that is published to be subscribed to, and all it does is it gets all of the entries of links. What we should be doing, if we were really lead, is to actually create a new folder, call it server, and create a new folder here called client. So here's the thing about this kind of reserved keyword for folders, server and client, is that everything that you put in these respective folders will only be run on that respective end. So you can do it this way, but this is kind of like your code will start to look a little bit bloated if you have classes with, you know, making sure that you're only in the client or only in the server. So that's kind of how you would do it. You would then create a new one and you would pop it in there. So yeah, now we've published it, but yeah, we still can't see anything. So we have to subscribe to it. So the second one is to simply subscribe to it where we actually use it. Where do we use it? Well, we use it here in info, which is where it gets defined. So this tracker, by the way, only is internal, and all it means is that it subscribes to changes as well. So in this tracker, we want to subscribe to the links collection.
Is
And
it
once I've done that,
read-only?
is it read-only?
Yeah.
Yes, at this time, yeah. And as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of test. Where did that come from? Oh, sorry. I know where that came from.
Insert link and then upon restart. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for exactly, yeah. So we left that in there, and so it inserted it every time we had a startup. What you can see is obviously it's persistent through the Meteor, through the server turn off and turn on. And this only ever runs once because, yeah, obviously our collection is persistent. Our collection had already things in it. So yeah, but like since we've done a couple modifications and save, it's done this and added a whole bunch of crap. So now we can see everything again. Everything's hunky-dory. If I do try to, for example, insert again here unsafely, call this blah2, what would you expect would happen? Well, it doesn't work. Basically, it says insert failed, access denied. And so we've kind of secured our collections that way. Right, so that's kind of the basics of the important core functions of Meteor. These are the ones that are kind of the base opinion. You don't have to use .startup. You don't have to use publish and subscribe, especially if you don't use the MongoDB driver. But it's kind of like it's an easy way to do a lot of stuff quickly. It's an easy way to template and prototype things very quickly. So that's why it sticks around a lot. And it is quite scalable and easy in production too. because we also have this tests folder here that already comes with some very basic assertions. Does my package JSON exist? Is the client not the server? Is the server not the client? And we can actually we can have a look at those. In fact, we need to this time really take down the server because we want to we want to run Meteor test. Actually, no, there's a couple of steps first. Oh yes, so about testing. This is just an interesting one. First thing is we want to add a test adapter. We can use Mocha, we can use whatever it is. This one is an easy one because it's using Meteor add means we are using Atmosphere packages, so already packages directly that come Meteorified. So this is an easy one to add. And then the second one we're going to add is try, and we are actually going to use the npm version. So Meteor npm actually just runs npm. So the version that Meteor uses of npm is kind of its own. So in other words, it uses a version of npm, but it's not like the global npm that you would have installed. So you still need to write Meteor npm. But what this does is basically do exactly what npm would do. So we install try. You can see that it's added these packages, and now it's added an npm packages. So this isn't managed by like the Meteor list, but this is kind of internal to its npm tool. So now we've got these two things. Now we can run, is it just Meteor test? Let me check my notes. Yeah, no, we have to we run Meteor test, but we specify the driver package, and the driver package is the one we installed, which is Mocha. And that's about as simple as it gets. You can use obviously any tool, any package that you want for your tests. In this case, we're only using asserts, so it's it's trivial. But yeah, the testing mode is kind of runs its own server. It does everything you would expect. And here, once we do that, we get two results. We get the passing results. So yeah, we know that has the correct name, and we know the server is not the client. So that's already great. Note that one test has not been run, and it's not it's this test. We haven't run client is not server because Meteor has intelligently known that on this end we've only run this one. So how to see that? Well, what we do is we simply go to the browser, and all the tests, all the front-end tests are run in the browser. And so we can here see client is not server, and obviously the one that's agnostic to its environment. And yeah, and Mocha, as you know, comes with, I don't know if this is Mocha or Chai, but it comes with some nice kind of like visual tools of coverage and stuff like that as well. So yeah, this is kind of like the base, as much as I want to do with the code. Also, like, oh, I've already overrun the lightning talk schedule. Sorry about that. There is one last thing I'm just going to mention. I'm not going to do it because I also failed to install the whole thing. And that is using Meteor's Android SDK. And there is one way to, yeah, it's one command, Meteor install SDK Android. And what it does is it packages and bundles and runs your entire application inside an emulated Android device. Of course, what type of Android device and how you set it up and all of this kind of stuff you have to do, with your own Java SDK. You have to use like the MVDs for managing your emulators and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically a one command tool to do testing, not only in an emulator device on your local machine, but also if you've got an Android device plugged in development mode, it's pretty much the same command for you to be able to just boom, run it there natively, all compiled into native application. So that all comes out the box. Yeah, and the only other thing I'll talk about briefly is Atmosphere, which is the NPM of Meteor, if you will. And as we can see here, like, trending in recent, most used, there's some interesting ones. It used to be that the most used were things like Bootstrap, but not anymore. But like, yeah, for example, if you want an actual front-end tool, like a proper, styling engine, if you will. We have Bootstrap 3, we have Bootstrap 4. It all depends, like, it's the same with NPM. You choose what you want, what you think is best for you. And you, of course, don't have to do that. You can just go to NPM and you can choose your NPM packages and manage them the way you want there. The only thing that you do, that you have to do when you do NPM packages instead of Meteor packages, you have to put a little bit more code into wherever you put them. Make sure, you've got your build order right, and yeah, sometimes they won't play nice with certain internal Meteor functions in terms of the data on the wire principle. But yeah, that's it as a kind of overview of Meteor. I've had a lot of fun with this over the years. They've been adding all kinds of stuff to it. Does anyone have any sort of questions, comments?
Thanks, Chris. Great presentation. Does it have server-side rendering by default?
That's a great question, and yes, it does. But you have to install it and set it up yourself. This entire idea, I did say this here. Yeah, the server sends data, not HTML. A lot of people would cringe and say, but that means we can't do SSR. Well, we can. We just need to like install the appropriate package. In fact, if we do this on Meteor, on Atmosphere, yeah, you've got Views SSR, you've got React SSR, you've got all of that. And you can, of course, use, you know, we use Next.js. In fact, is there even an Atmosphere Next.js package? There might be. Yeah, if not, just use npm's Next.js and then, yeah, build it around that. And the only thing that you won't get then is, yeah, I mean, you like your templating engine won't be like, you'll have to build like the kind of the updates that you do to your MongoDB, like to your subscriptions. You'll just have to make sure that React kind of subscribes to them a bit more manually than you would otherwise just using the Meteor dot functions. But yeah, you can.
Thanks.
And thanks, Chris. Very good presentation. I'm trying to understand where Meteor sits in terms of the stack. So you kind of said, if you want to do the UI, you're likely to choose React to use something like this. If you want something like server-side rendering, you probably can't even go with the Next.js. And what is it doing then? I mean, it's kind of a set of pre-built packages for something. I'm just trying to understand, what's the use case? Why can't you just pick something else? I mean, or just ignore Meteor.
Yeah, I mean, the reason is it's a full stack, out of the box, ready to mock up something quickly type of deal. It comes with a lot of things. It comes with all of your ES5 stuff. It comes with this all of the reactive stuff, and it comes with, importantly, it comes with an entire database driver management tool and subscription and model. So it's out of the box, an entire full stack application of any scale. That's the idea. It's opinionated in its initial, Meteor create. But you can also just build it up the way you want to, and then use Meteor to just handle the full stack stuff that you would otherwise need multiple different libraries and then have to munch them together. I think it's very much for doing a lot of stuff quickly. Sometimes you want to then take it to production the way it is, like using inbuilt Meteor or adding some extra stuff on top. But yeah, it tries to do everything, basically, is the idea. Does this answer your question?
Sort of.
Okay, sorry. Is there something else you'd like that I can address?
I'm just wondering how it can play with the Next.js. I'm just trying to think in a little bit technical terms. But if Next.js, for instance, is a platform and Meteor is a platform as well, you're saying that it can play together. How? Have different startups, different servers, like everything is kind of different.
Yeah, this is something I'd have to look into. It's a very good question. They do.
I already reviewed. The short answer is no. There's
okay.
no that. there's a way to upgrade Next.js to Meteor level by adding Apollo and MongoDB, but there is no way to connect this to without like losing 80% of Next.js capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay,
it was
that explains.
They do similar stuff in different ways, and also stuff that the other one doesn't quite do. They're two opinionated frameworks that I think also have different objectives. Next is, build your own, basically like roll your own backend. And it gives you more freedom than Meteor. I think that's absolutely true. But it's also more work intensive for if you want to end up with like a huge, big, fully fledged app. The idea of Meteor is that you have so much out the box that you might not even need to add that many more other libraries on top of it. So they do try to accomplish different philosophies, I think.
Yeah, that answers the question, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and someone this is years ago though. Someone wrote a whole medium on it as well. So.
By the way, Kate mentioned that we've got 2 minutes left before the end of the recording.
Yep.
The end of the call, so maybe it's time for the last question, and let's wrap it up.
Let's do it. Any last questions, comments? Well, thanks very much for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you very much, Kate.
And see you on the daily.
Thanks.
You.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, Chris.